Please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before I hand over to the delegated lawyer for the civil parties, I would like to remind lawyer that the question you put to this witness should be limited to the confine of the relevant facts in case 002/01. That is to say, the confine of the first phase of population movement and the second phase of population movement in 1975 and part of 1976 and early 1977.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Sosiek, for your courage and your strength to share your story here with us. Before we talk more about Wat Botum, I would like to go back and ask you about the day of the removal at the ministry. Do you remember what month that happened?
I was removed from the printing house department in 1978. It was in April 1978. And I left Wat Botum to Dei Krahom or B20. And I arrived there 3 days before the Khmer New Year's Day.
Thank you. Who told you that you had to leave the ministry?
The director of the department, Kamrat Hun, who told me that I had to pack my stuff and I would leave for education.
Did you know at that time what it means to leave for education?
As lawyer, the education in this context was the re-education. I had to undergo refashioning session, and I learned that from the driver. I cannot recall the name of the driver, but he told me at that time that I was to be sent to Dei Krahom B20, which I would have to undergo a refashioning session, and once I could refashion myself, then I would be transferred back. The President, lawyer, you are once again reminded to remain within the confine of case 002/01. You should focus on the facts relevant to the first and the second phases of population movement.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my understanding, the removal from the Ministry of the Propaganda relates to the structure of that time and also to the policy of removal and disappearance that we are under case 002/01. Madam Sosiek, I would like to continue with my questions. You said there was a driver. Did someone pick you up in a vehicle? Was it a car?
At first, Kamrat Hun told me that I had to leave for education for a few days. And at that time, they came to pick me up by a truck by the name of Lamata. And it was actually the car belonged to the security guard, which was used to transport Madame Yuan Yat, and the driver was Tha.
So it was Madame Yun Yat's car that picked you up and brought you from the Ministry of Propaganda to Wat Bottom.
Yes, you are right.
Now, you said that they told you you were taken to be educated. What happened in Wat Bottom in terms of education?
I stayed in Wat Bottom for 3 nights, but the overall situation in that place was that there were all male persons over there, and I at that time watered some vegetable and garlic plant, and I actually saw a lot of backsacks, luggages, and clothes over there, and I did not know where those belongings came from, where those stuff came from. I did not know who left them over there either.
Did you know the other men who were at Wat Bottom?
No, there were no other men. I came here along with my kid, and other men were already there when I got there.
And the other men who were already at Wat Bottom, did you know them?
No, I never knew them.
So during your stay at Wat Bottom for 3 nights, did you have to attend study sessions?
No, I didn't. They did not even ask me a single question. They only warned me not to walk out of the premises freely. President, lawyer, this is the final reminder for you. Please try to refrain from asking the question that is beyond the scope. Or you should focus on the policy concerning the first and second phases of movement of the population from 1975 to 1976. And it may go to early part of 1977. That is the confine of K002/01. This is the last and this is the third reminder for you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Then I will ask the final question on this topic. Do you know why you had to stay there for 3 nights at Wat Bottom before you moved to Bo 20?
The President, witness need not answer this question. This question falls outside the confine of the facts before us.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will move on the topics then. So you said you were married in 1976. That was a different husband than the husband that you're married to today. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And at that time, you were already working at the Ministry of Propaganda in 1976. Did you have to get an approval from your superiors for this marriage?
Well, at the time, if anyone fell in love with anyone else, they had to propose a marriage by words. For example, if my superior was a female person, then the other men who loved me would propose the marriage through my superior. And if I agreed and consent with the proposal, then they would arrange the marriage for us. And at that time, I can still recall that there were 6 couples who got married on the same day as mine. So Angka was like our fathers, like our parents as well. There was no any other people who organized the marriage festivity for us, but it was the Angka.
So did the couples know each other before the marriage?
Yes, they did, but they work in different departments or sections. For example, my husband was in the broadcasting section, while I was at the art section.
And did anyone ever refuse a marriage if it was proposed by Angka?
Of the 6 couple, none refused the marriage.
Thank you, Madam Sosiek. I have no further questions, and I would pass the floor to my colleague, Mr. Ang Pei, to continue the questioning. Thank you very much.
Council Pich-ong. Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. President, and good afternoon, Your Honors. I will be brief. I will not go beyond 20 minutes in this line of questioning. Ms. Sossi, I have a few questions. I would like to seek your clarification. When you first arrived in Phnom Penh, you said that you stayed overnight at the stadium and then you were transferred to Ministry of Propaganda. Could you describe the situation following the evacuation of Phnom Penh? What was your impression of Phnom Penh? Were Phnom Penh was like a normal city where people resided normally, or there was no people in Phnom Penh at that time? Response. When I got to Phnom Penh following the evacuation of the people, I did not see ordinary people or residents in Phnom Penh. I only saw soldiers, male soldiers, along the street and our team. But frankly, I never went anywhere freely. I was transferred to the stadium and then I was transferred out to the Ministry of Propaganda. Question. So, from the time when you first arrived in Phnom Penh until 1976, were you or did you enjoy your freedom to roam around Phnom Penh city? Response. No, I never went anywhere. I stayed in my place. But in terms of freedom, if we wanted to go anywhere, we had to ask for approval from our superior. Then we could go, because I did not find it very stringent in terms of that. Question. So you said that before you went anywhere, you had to ask for permission. But did you ever request your superior to visit your relatives or family members or so? And did you receive the approval? Response: No, I never requested them to visit my hometown. I only stayed in my workplace. Question. So I would like to move on to another topic then. You got married to your second husband. Can you tell the court what your second husband's name is? Response: According to the his ID card, his name was Seta, but in his soldier's ID, his name is Thasot. Sotha was the official names in his soldier ID. Question: Can you tell the court that what your husband did during the Khmer Rouge regimes and who did he work with? Response: I had not known him earlier until 1983 when I got married to him. When you started settling down with him as a family, did you ever ask him about his work during the period of the Democratic Cambodia from 1975 to 1979? Response: Yes, I have heard his story about his involvement in the battlefields from 1970 to 1971 and 1973. He discussed about the hardship and other story about his warfares and battlefield story. Question: Did he ever tell you about his life in general from 1975 to 1979? I would like to know whether I know that your husband already passed away, but I would like to know when you were still living with your husband, did he ever tell you about his life and his work from 1975 to 1978, says the lawyer, and if he did, who did he work for? The President witness, please hold on. The defense counsel is on his feet. You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. My apologies for interrupting, but it would appear that now we're going into illicit hearsay information from a witness who is no longer available to testify. Obviously, they may wish to try to get the statement in from the deceased husband. We don't know why this may be relevant. We have about approximately 40 minutes left. I think if we're efficient, we may be able to complete this witness and allow her to go about her life. So I don't see the use of going on with these sorts of questions. Thank you.
Mr. Payang, Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to respond. In terms of the hearsay evidence or testimony in this context, the Chamber has so far ruled upon this issue, and as for the this form of evidence was not objected by the Chamber, so this is also one of the procedural rule apply here. So since she got married to her husband, she might have shared some story with her husband. The President, Counsel, can you enlighten the chamber concerning the last question you posed the witness? What is the relevance of this question to the current proceeding before us? Can you enlighten us as of its relevance in the case before us now? Counsel Pechong. Thank you, Mr. President. Her husband was Sotha. He was one of the messengers of one of the co-accused, and he might have known of the activities of the accused, and he could have known the relationship between the accused and S21 as well. The President, you may proceed. And witness, you are advised to respond to the question based on what you can recollect very well. You cannot speculate in your answer. Witness. Thank you. Well, he was my husband, but as for his work and his relation with other, I did not know. So my answer to this question is I do not know. It was his business. Questions. I have my last question on this topic. I would like to know whether or not your husband had ever shared with you about his life during that period. Response. I never asked about his background and his work as well. Question. Yes, you said that you never asked him question about his work background, but my question to you is, had you ever heard him talk about his work with others? Respond, no. I never heard him talk of it. Thank you. Thank you for your response. I have one last topic to ask you. You said that Khieu Sampon's wife went to meet you. Went to meet your husband. What did she want to know? President interrupts. The witness need not answer this question because it is repetitive. Counsel Pechong, can you clarify why Khieu Sampon's wife went to meet your husband to ask him for the information concerning the work of Mr. Khieu Sampon? The President. These questions induces the witness to speculate. She is the witness. You should not ask any questions that elicit any speculation. Counsel Pechong, this is my last question for you. You worked at the Ministry of Propaganda. Did the radio programs or describe the hardship that people had to endure in the countryside and in other work sites at all? response. Well, in terms of broadcast, before the liberations, we did not have sufficient food to eat. People had to live without many things. But after the liberation, we try to broadcast and encourage people to dig up canals and water reservoirs in order to supply to rice paddy. Mr. Pechang, thank you very much. Thank you very much for responding to all my questions. Thank you, President.
The President, thank you very much. We would like now to proceed to the Defense Counsel for the accused persons, starting from counsels for Mr. Nuon Chia. The President, apologies. Judges of the bench would like to put some questions to the witness first. So, Judge Lavean, you may proceed before the floor is given to the counsel for Nuon Chia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions to put to the witness, follow-up questions. Witness, you said that you met Mr. Kyosompon often, several times, before 1975. You also said that you knew that he was one of the leaders of Democratic Kampuchea. And you also said that in the days that followed 17 April 1975, you met him several times. First in Kampong Speu, then on the Starus Mountains, and then at the Ministry of Propaganda. So I would like you to tell me if you have any kind of precise recollection of these encounters.
Response. I met him first at Speu, Sraiwil, as I indicated in my testimony. Later on, I met him near the Chatra mountain briefly. I did not where he went after this. Then we met at the Propaganda, and he also left.
You also said that you did not have a chance to talk to him. However, were you able to observe him? And do you remember if Kyosompon behaved in any kind of special way? Do you remember him being rather satisfied of seeing Phnom Penh liberated? Or was he rather frustrated? Can you tell us if he expressed any kind of feeling whatsoever then?
Response. Mr. President, I noted that he was not overjoyed with the victory. He was calm, and a normal characteristic of an elderly person.
Was he rather aged in 1975?
Response. He was younger than today.
Hello. So, in one of his books, Kyosompon stated the following. This is his book, The Recent History of Cambodia and My Opinions. This is document E3.18, ERN in English 00103-750, French 005954. 25 to 28. And Que Sampan states that he was extremely surprised to see Phnom Penh being evacuated. Not only he said that he was surprised, but he said that he was absolutely flabbergasted. He even said that he was particularly sad and that this pained him. It pained him to imagine elderly people, pregnant women, children, people who were sick, being evacuated in all directions on foot under a blazing sun. So did they know where they had to go? How many of them would be able to reach their destination? And he also wondered what had happened to his brothers, to his sisters, to his relatives, and to his dear friends. He also wondered how, when hope was returning, to find his parents, and therefore his parents were separated from him. So he was wondering what further trials they would be facing, and if they would be able to overcome them, and how many would succumb. And he finishes by saying the following: these were questions that anguished me. So, did you remember seeing someone who seemed anguished?
Response. I'm afraid I have not observed his behavior. I did not understand his personal sentiment back then.
In the days following the liberation of Phnom Penh, you do not remember hearing statements made by Que Sampan or made on behalf of Que Sampan. That is to say, for example, statements that might have been broadcast over the radio. You have absolutely no recollection of such statements?
Response. I did not listen to the broadcast, and I did not take good notice of any of the broadcast.
So for the purposes of the record, I will say that there are 6 statements attributed to Que Sampan. Then most of them are indexed under E3/118, which is therefore a collection of the radio broadcasts that were recorded by the FIBIS. And the first message, it dates back to 1st April 1975. It is a statement saying that Que Sampan is making a statement on the current situation, with the mention that this is a recording of a text that was read by Que Sampan himself. French ERN 0070 0256 to 57. English ERN 00166897 to 98. And Khmer 00707207 to 88. And the second document is a document dated 3 April 1975, and the title is the following: Que Sampan is congratulating the FPLNK for the Niak Lung victory, and this is a text that was read by a broadcaster. The English ERN is the following: 00166923 to 25. And Khmer is the same as the one I stated before. And the third message, this is a broadcast of 8 April 1975 titled Que Sampan's Denial. So he was denying the existence of any kind of negotiation with the Khmer Republic. The ERN in English is 001669 27, Khmer 0070 to 77 to 88, and the fourth message is the broadcast of a statement dated 14 April 1975, that is to say, a few days before the capture of Phnom Penh, and Que Son Pon, it's titled Que Son Pon is calling the Phnom Penh population to rally the Funk, English 006948 to 49, Khmer 0070 02 67 to 77 to 88. Fifth message. This is a message that has already been mentioned by the prosecution during the previous hearing, and this is a broadcast of a speech by Que Son Pon on 22 April 75, titled Que Son Pon's congratulatory message. ER in English 0016 69 94 to 96, Khmer 0070 02 to 77 to 88. So I would like to specify that the text of this message is also available in French. We can find it in the archives in the former German Democratic Republic. This is document 359/1/1.1.37 with the following ERN 00 53 74 78 to 0 to 81. And finally, there's a sixth message, which is the broadcast of a statement attributed to Que Son Pon titled Press Release from the Special National Congress of Cambodia that convened from 25 to 27 April 1975, French ERN 0070 02 64 to 0070 02 66, English 0016 7012 to 13, and Khmer 00 is the same as the one I mentioned before. So all of this, witness, does all of this refresh your memory? Do you remember any of these 6 broadcasts that were broadcasted over the radio called back then the Voice of the Funk?
Response. No, I don't personally. Because the studio was about more than 100 meters from the place where I stayed. So I never heard the direct reading of the news. And it was a long time ago, and my recollection doesn't serve me very well.
Did you hear or did you learn later on if the radio had broadcast any of these messages for the population to inform the population that they're going to be evacuated and also to provide reasons for this evacuation? Did you hear anything to that effect, any kind of explanation that might have been provided by the authorities, explanations given to the population?
Response. I try to recollect whether I recall having listened to those broadcasts, but I can't remember. Perhaps I was back then was too young to care about the broadcasts. Witness,
you said during the hearing of 16 August at 1503, you said that before the liberation, each time Que Son Pon would give a speech, he asked people to attend the sessions, but after the liberation I did not receive any directions in that regard. And if I received instructions of the like, I would follow them. So did you confirm that before the liberation of Phnom Penh, each time Que Son Pon would give a speech, you were required to attend the session? And what kind of sessions were these? Were these sessions just to go listen to Kyo Sompong in person, or were these sessions where you had to listen to the radio?
Response. Indeed, it was my statement. For example, if my chairperson asked me to meet to listen to the statements made by him, then I would go there. I remember that, but not remembering listening to the radio broadcast.
So you would go listen to Kyo Sompong in person, is that correct? You would go see him and listen to him? Or would you just listen to him on the radio?
Response. I did not listen to neither of this.
Fine. Since there isn't much time left, we're going to now look at other aspects of your testimony. First, I would like to look at other documents. We have on the case file 3 documents that have already been put before the chamber, and these are reports of meetings of the Standing Committee a priori, and that were focusing on propaganda and on information. So the first document is a document indexed E3/228. It is titled Record of the Standing Committee Meeting of 9 January 1976, and the agenda was the following: the objective of propaganda of education for 1976 and in the future. So this meeting was held in the presence of the following people: Comrade Secretary, so we can imagine that this was Pol Pot; Comrade Undersecretary, I suppose this was Nunchia; Comrade Dun; Comrade Hat; Comrade Poas. I believe that Comrade Poas was Comrade Hunim and Comrade Tuj. Khmer ERN 0001705 to 113. English 00182614 to 19. French 00301321 to 29. So I have a few questions on this document, and what I'm trying here is to define the importance of propaganda for the members of the Standing Committee, and here it is a question of the shortcomings and qualities of the propaganda services, and the following is said: what a great inadequacy is that we undervalue the importance of mentality, or ideology in English. Educational propaganda regarding the class struggle does not exist in a systematic manner. So these kinds of concerns, were these concerns that you heard about when you were working for the Ministry of Propaganda? Was this the main objective of propaganda? That is to say, to broadcast messages with ideological content that were there to reflect the position of class struggle. And what does it mean, this position of class struggle, for you?
Response. I do not understand what class struggle means.
Were you told that the programs had to have an ideological content? Was it necessary for the programs, for the broadcasts, to have a political connotation?
Response. In the radio broadcast content, the message concerning education, encouragement were part of the broadcast. Yeah, they were such messages.
So now we are going to move on to another document, which is document E3/231. It is the report of another meeting titled Record of the Working Meeting of Propaganda from 8 March 1976, and the agenda was the following. First, the broadcast of the news of the 20 March 1976 elections, the duty to monitor the news, which I understand more as the duty to control information, and the meeting was held in the presence of the following people: Super Comrade Secretary, I suppose this was Pol Pot; Super Comrade Undersecretary, I suppose this was Nunchea; Super Comrade Van, so I suppose this was Yengsari; Super Comrade Hem, I suppose this was Kyo Sompan; Super Comrade Dun; Super Comrade Boas, here again, I suppose this was Hunim; and Super Comrade Deutsch. Khmer ERN 00017124127, English ERN 00528385-87, French 00323930-31. So, this is a meeting that took place when the elections were held, the first elections in Democratic Kampuchea, and the following is said: it is necessary to broadcast information on these elections, but we will not broadcast the rules behind these elections. We will congratulate the elections, and we will make a few comments on the Constitution, find a way of indicating this. And we are broadcasting the meaning and the comments on the Constitution, but not with too much insistence. So, do you remember having received instructions geared to restricting the information on the elections that were held in March 1976? Were there certain things that you were told not to speak about? Were there certain topics that were not supposed to be discussed in the radio broadcasts?
Response. I do not remember about this. When it comes to meetings, it was the superiors, uncalled, who would be the ones who managed them all.
Do you believe that the could be worried about information that may give way to criticism? So maybe it would be better to avoid criticism and therefore not transmit information.
Response. I'm afraid I don't understand your question, Your Honor.
Bien.
Well, fine. Let's move on to the third document, and this is the third document regarding propaganda and information, and this is document E3/225, titled Records of the Working Meeting of Propaganda of 1 June 1976, and the agenda was the following: the different technical areas within the party, organization, and the public. And the meeting was held in the presence of the following people: Comrade Secretary Pol Pot, therefore, Comrade Undersecretary Nunchia, Comrade Poas, sometimes called Comrade Kas in certain translations, and the radio group, Comrade Kui, Comrade Song, and the cinema group, Comrade Deutsch, who was in charge of taking the minutes, ERN Khmer 0000837 to 851, English 00182715 to 24, French ERN 00323903 to 13. And there is also another French version which is indexed under D200/6.4, and the ERN there is 00538890 to 99. So, I would like to focus on a few quotes from this record. For example, at the French ERN, we can find the following: 00538898, and the following is regarding radio. The current radio station.
The President, Judge Lavergne, could you repeat the ERN numbers because the interpreter could not follow yours?
Fine. The ERN at the last page I just read out is the following in French: 00538898. So the following is said regarding radio. The current radio station we have to protect it with extra revolutionary vigilance, and in particular in regard to the enemies from within. We are afraid that they will set bombs. Therefore, it is necessary to monitor. We have to monitor people coming in and coming out to avoid chaos. In principle, the enemies have all been annihilated. However, they still have the desire to destroy us in terms of ideas, and so we have to increase our vigilance in terms of position as well as in terms of concept. So do you remember meetings in which such directions were given? Directions to be vigilant, to display revolutionary vigilance, and if so was the case, what did all of this mean?
Response. I do not recall this. Again, they were the tasks by
In the same document again, a bit further down, in the ERN 00538894, now regarding the editors-in-chief of the radio, and the following is said: generally speaking, their work has been quite positive, but there are 3 people only, and that's too little. We have to boost the staff. The editors are intellectuals. The problem that is raised concerns the political line of the party, it is necessary to indoctrinate for 4 to 5 years the editors so that they become impregnated with this line. We have to bring them to the base to train them. So when you were working at the Ministry of Propaganda, did you note that sometimes intellectuals would be removed to be replaced by base people?
Response. I already indicated concerning the removal of people. At that time, only Han, who was the intellectual who worked for composing music and lyrics, who was removed.
You spoke about a certain number of people who had been sent to work in the rice fields who left the Ministry of Propaganda. You also spoke about the arrest of Hunim and the arrest of his wife. Did Hunim also have children working for the Ministry of Propaganda? And were these children also arrested?
Response. Mr. Hunim did not have his children working at the propaganda department. His daughter worked at the medical section, and another one studied foreign language, and another child followed his wife.
Est-ce que, à votre...
To your knowledge, did some people commit suicide at the Ministry of Propaganda? Did you hear about the suicide of a person called whom some...
I have forgotten.
Vous avez oublié ou...
You have forgotten, or it is very difficult for you to recall that?
Do not recall. I have forgotten it.
Et est-ce que vous avez le souvenir...
And do you recall whether during meetings, confessions of persons characterized as traitors were read out?
I listened to it, and then there was an announcement about Koi Thuon, that Koi Thuon was a traitor. He was not a person that everyone should look up to him and should not follow his model. And that was simply an advice to us, but it had little to do with us because we were only artists.
Dernière question en tant...
Last question. As an artist, were you a theatre actress?
En plus de chanter,
Apart from being a singer,
vous avez participé à des...
did you take part in theatre performances?
Yes, I was part of the Ajay team. And as for the performing arts, I also involved in this form of art as well. But my interest was in Ajay, traditional performance.
Et est-ce que vous vous souvenez d'une pièce de théâtre?
Do you recall a play titled The Road or the Path of Liberation is a far-sighted path?
I do not recall the title of that.
Voilà, donc juste pour les besoins du transcript.
For the record, let me point out that this play is in the reference is E3637 and the references are 00445401 and the interpreter didn't hear the other references. Thank you, witness, for your testimony.
The President, thank you, Ms. Witness. I note the defense counsel is on his feet. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief, but it's for the purposes of keeping a clean record. When Judge Lavergne was questioning about document D200/6.4, perhaps it was a translation issue, but Judge Lavergne mentioned Comrade Secretary Nguyen Chia, and it would appear, at least in the English translation, that he would be mentioned in this document on that page. But just for the record, the only thing that's mentioned on the actual document is Comrade Secretary without any further addition. And the same is true in Khmer, I've been told. Thank you.
Pardon, je n'ai pas noté.
I did not take note of the number of the document in question.
Judge Lavergne, it's the last document you discussed. It's the minutes of the meeting of propaganda works of the 1st of June 1976. Perhaps it was lost in translation, but you stated Comrade Secretary Nguyen Chia as if that was in the document, but it's not. Thank you.
Écoutez, la version française.
The French version refers to the following participants: Comrade Secretary, Comrade Deputy Secretary, Comrade Poaz, Cinema Group, and the reference is D200/6.4. So there may be an interpretation problem with regard to the French version, and I see that is the case. It is under exhibit number E3/25. I see composition, Comrade Secretary, Comrade Deputy Secretary, Comrade Poas.
Belabor the point. I understand what you're saying, but for the other documents, you at least mentioned that you supposed that Comrade Secretary was Nguyen Chia. For this document, you stated Comrade Secretary Nguyen Chia as if it was in the minutes. At least that was the English translation, and therefore I wanted to get that clear for the record.
The President, thank you. The time is now appropriate for the day adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn now, and we will resume tomorrow, the 21st of August 2012, starting from 9 o'clock in the morning. And tomorrow the Chamber will be hearing the testimony by Ms. Sosie, and we will start with the testimony by the defense team for Nguyen Chia, and followed by other defense team. Ms. Sosie, your testimony has not yet been concluded, so we invite you to come to testify before the Chamber again tomorrow. And the same is for the assistant from the Vesu unit. I thank you very much for accompanying the witness, and today's testimony was smooth, and thank you very much for your presence. And court officer, is instructed to coordinate with the vessel unit to arrange the transport and accommodation for the witness and have her return to this courtroom before 9 a.m. in the morning tomorrow. Security guards are instructed to bring the co-accused back to the detention facility and have them back to this courtroom tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ